Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about the Summer of Superman Special Issue 1 by Mark Waid, Dan Slott, Joshua Williamson, Jorge Jimenez, Belen Ortega, and Dan Mora. The reign of Superman begins this summer right here with a special oversized issue that not only sets up the next year in the Superman comics, next year in the DC universe at large. The book is broken into chapters, beginning with Mark Waid taking us back to Smallville, where a young Clark Kent chats with Lana Lang, awkwardly complimenting her. Clark is remembering this memory, reminded how it was the summer they both turned 16, and by then, Lana was considered the sweetheart of Smallville, looking after the elderly service members in town, helping at the Sunday school, and various other good deeds. Clark finds himself very lucky to call her his best friend, and surprisingly, this is the moment he decides he doesn't want to be just friends with her, having fallen in love with her after seeing everything she does for the town and the people in her life. Waid digging into Clark's past with Lana feels very long overdue, at least in a modern sense of it, since it's been a while since we've had a Smallville set story that is about these two characters. And I think this is something he is going to continue in his upcoming Action Comics run, since that's going back in time as well to when Superboy first appeared. It also says a lot about Clark in that what he finds attractive about Lana is what she is doing for the community. You know, he's attracted to her inherent goodness, not, her looks or anything like that. It's because she is just a good person. Clark decides to make his move, and the first thing he wants to do is tell Lana his secret. Before he gets a chance to though, he hears a commotion in town where a giant monster is rampaging through Smallville. Clark awkwardly makes an excuse that he's got a stomachache and needs an antacid, heading into the house before speeding out of it as Superboy, calling in Crypto as backup as they go to deal with the Validus, the mindless monster who is part of the 30th century villain team, the Fatal Five. Superboy and Crypto confront the villain, having tangled with him before, but all Clark can think about is getting him out of town, realizing he's just a big angry toddler, so he tries to calm him down. Superboy immediately resorting to de-escalation, especially this early on in his career, kind of speaks volumes about where he is as a character. Yeah, he's still a kid who's learning the ropes, but he's been on adventures with the Legion of Superheroes, so he knows the important lessons of being a hero and what he needs to do as a hero. Validus doesn't calm down though, blasting the hero with his lightning blasts. Suddenly, the sky darkens and both Validus and Superboy fall into a portal, which Superboy realizes is a time stream, witnessing things all over history like cavemen and atomic bomb tests. Mark Waid gets a bit clever here, as since the original Legion of Superheroes stories, they gave Clark a mental block so he can't remember things when he's time traveling, so he can't disrupt the timeline by knowing things before he's meant to know them, and it's a good thing too, as he witnesses things like his first meeting with Batman, the Daily Planet, but more importantly, he sees his life with Lois Lane and their son John. Seeing this shocks Clark, since he realizes that that woman isn't Lana, the girl he loves with all his heart and thinks he's going to spend the rest of his life with. Clark is brought back to reality by Validus, who smashes him in the back, and angered, Superboy smashes the villain back himself. However, he passes right through him as the villain teleports away, returning Superboy to the fields of Kansas. Thanks to the mental block, Clark can't remember much except for fighting Validus in Smallville, which frustrates him since he feels like there was something he was meant to remember. I love the mental block idea, and it's something that I had actually kind of forgotten about, and I'm sure a lot of people had kind of forgotten about as well, since obviously the adult Clark doesn't particularly have that in his mind anymore. It was kind of worn off after time. It was only that Superboy wasn't allowed to know about his future and what he would become to Earth and the galaxy. So I think there's a good idea there to use it a bit more and kind of play around with it. You can go on all these different adventures, and then at the end of it you can kind of put the toys back in the box, as it were. It's a great little concept that will allow stuff like that, and hell, maybe even with Waid having to go back in time in his Action Comics run to Superboy's origins, maybe he'll get to play with that a little bit here since he's already doing it here. Clark returns to Lana, having some strange gut feelings but not knowing what they mean. Thanks to this, he doesn't tell Lana his secrets, asking if they can rain check their hangout since he's not feeling well, and Lana is totally cool with it, and she hopes that Clark gets a bit better since she likes Clark being just normal Clark. Clark knows that years later he did actually begin to piece things together with what happened once the mental block worn off. finding that it was actually a gift he didn't tell Lana, since they both stayed great friends and he was able to save his secret self for the woman that would actually be his true love. And now in the present, Lana is able to have that exact same feeling as she's on the verge of marrying John Henry Irons. This is a really sweet way to portray Clark's feelings towards Lana and how he's happy that they were able to remain friends, and she got her chance to find her own true love like he did. They don't have any like raw wounds or anything between each other. They know what they are to each other, and they accept that, and their partners also accept that as well. In the present, Clark and Lois help Lana and John Henry set up for their wedding in Smallville. We get a nice moment here with Ma and Pa Kent kind of joking with each other since Jonathan isn't helping out because he's got bad knee and the weather and everything. And it's really fun seeing them in comics again since they've been absent for what feels like ages. They haven't been, but they haven't been in any recent books in the last couple of months. So it's nice that Slott, who's writing the second chapter now, is bringing them back as supporting characters here, and then also in his book as well. Lois's super eavesdropping skills pick up on Lana wondering if they should postpone the wedding, since she's unsure of what will happen, but John Henry knows they can fix this. Clark knows that this is a job for Lana's super friend, and he meets with Lana and learns that she's worried that some sort of super threat will crop up when they're just about to do something important in their lives, as has happened countless times before. Clark assures her that actually won't be happening, and today will be perfect, but as if on cue, a rip in reality appears in the sky above and Validus arrives again. Clark wonders why of all the villains he is turning up today. Finding the villain brings with him a thunderstorm. The Superman family spring into action, realizing Validus is just a distraction of some type, so Superman and Superwoman break off to save Smallville, getting Validus out of the area with a single punch before turning attention to the people of the city, getting them to safety as the 3 tornadoes touch down in the city, catching the family off guard. I love the energy Slott is bringing to this story. It's just non-stop action and chaos, but the heroes are on top of all of the chaos, and they're kind of like the order in the chaos, and I like that it's not just a villain they're fighting, but it's also the environment as well, and they're having to deal with that more so than the actual villain himself. As the family take on the tornadoes and save the people of Smallville, Superman demands to know why Validus is coming back in time to do this. Lana meanwhile uses her powers to draw the lightning from the tornadoes and Validus into herself, ensuring that no one will be hurt but her. This is quite an interesting use of Lana's powers, since for those who don't know, Lana's powers actually come from technically the New 52 Superman. They're technically from him. That's where she got them from. And they're all energy based, and I like that here she's using that as sort of like a counter where she's taking in energy, not expelling it. As Superman is beaten down, Pa Kent is swept up by a tornado, pulled into its eye. Luckily, Superwoman is there to save him. Superman begins to get frustrated with Validus, beating him relentlessly since he doesn't have time to deal with him and help save Smallville at the same time. The villain is suddenly teleported away yet again, and the storms die down with him, allowing Clark to return to the town and help his family, but he finds thanks to the entire family being there, not a single person died or was hurt. The team wonder how they'll fix the damage, and luckily John Henry actually has that covered, calling a press conference, and in front of the world's press and Clark and Lois there representing the Daily Planet, he tells them that Steelworks will not only foot the bill for the entire reconstruction of Smallville, but also help find solutions that will save America's heartlands from the dangers of things like tornadoes and severe weather. John Henry also gets a really cool moment here where he reveals not only will he be doing all of that, but he wishes to move his company, or at least himself, to Smallville, so he can be in the town his wife grew up while he helps them out. Now this is a really cool status quo shift for John Henry and Lana. It's taking them out of the city, out of all the tech-filled metropolis city of tomorrow stuff, which John Henry was at the cutting edge of, and putting him in middle America, just the middle of nowhere America. And it's a really damn cool idea, and I don't know where they're going to appear outside of maybe Dan Slott's book, but like that itself is just like a book into itself, like a new series of Steelworks or something, but they've moved out into the American heartland and are helping deal with things that we don't usually get to see big companies deal with, stuff like tornadoes and the weather. Usually it's all stuff to do with climate change or like weapons security, like with in the other series of Steelworks, where it was all about his weapons and saving the city and stuff. I'd really like that change of him having to deal with stuff like the weather and like the environment. That would be really interesting. Chapter 3 of the book by Joshua Williamson kicks off with Lana and John Henry's wedding finally being officiated. Clark begins to think about his summers with Lana again and what they helped teach him, like how to appreciate every day since it's important to live in the present. And having these moments here is something that he'll never actually get when he's Superman. I love the casualness of all of this book so far, just everyday human stuff that heroes sometimes have to do. And also, this is a wedding that is a very long time coming, like since the beginning of the Rebirth era. So almost 10 years in the making. Clark, Lois, and the town see Lana and John Henry off on their honeymoon, and sometime later, Superman, Mr. Terrific, and Omen return to the field that Validus came in with a portal door, intent on finding out what's going on with the villain. Superman figures that since he keeps arriving in the same spot, he'll do it again, so the device they brought will open a gateway in time so they can find him. Upon opening the gateway, they immediately find Validus, who smashes Superman away from the gateway. Omen uses her psychic powers to invade Validus's mind and find out what's going on with him. However, upon entering his mind, Omen finds only chaos, unable to pass out any actual information before the villain throws her loose, screaming the word Omega as the heroes ask him why he's attacking them at these moments in time. Omen getting to be part of the book is really cool, since it's a great way to include Power Girl's little area of the Superman family books, and she's still got an ongoing happening. It's also great use of her powers, and I like that they chose her as the psychic hero to be part of this mission, since she's technically part of the Superman family, being that she lives and operates with Power Girl. So I like that they didn't just, bring in some random superhero with psychic powers. There's actually someone who is actually part of the Superman family. Omen, however, does reveal she found out one last thing before being kicked out of Validus's mind, and that is he is scared and he is on the run from someone. So it's pretty obvious that Validus's plot is tied directly to Darkseid, being the only word he said this issue is Omega, Darkseid's sigil. And him being scared recontextualizes a lot of the stuff that he does in this book, since it's obvious he was like trying to get Superman to come with him into the timeline or something, or like trying to warn Superman, but because he has the mind of a child and is kind of like a mindless monster, he couldn't get that across in a very clear or concise way. Superman just took it as, oh, this is a villain who's trying to attack me. Superman leaves a message for John Henry that they should follow up on the missing villain, but Clark needs to focus on the present, heading back home to Metropolis with pizza, remembering his second lesson he learned in his summers of Smallville. And that is, they always end, but those they love will always be there and give today meaning, while the future holds many surprises. And boy, Superman is right about the surprises, as the final 2 pages hold many, many surprises, as it's revealed Booster Gold might be the one who actually sent Validus back in time, in the hopes that it would set off red flags for Superman and he would begin to investigate and learn Booster survived his trip into the Absolute Universe. Validus meanwhile arrives in a destroyed Hall of Justice, where he's attacked by the Absolute Legion, who knows Darkseid, their master, won't be pleased with the villain's damage to the timeline, thinking that they need to explore the damage he's done. Be very careful about it. Lightning Lad, however, wants to keep Validus alive, wanting to use his powers to torture Booster Gold, who they have captured and hung up in the Omega dungeons. Now this is coming off the back of the Absolute Legion appearing in Williamson's Superman ongoing recently, where their plans to investigate Earth Prime and Superman begun. Booster Gold also making an appearance here really caught me off guard, since up until now we didn't know what happened to him when he ventured into the world Darkseid made at the beginning of DC All-In. He could have died, he could have, been, subject to the changes of the universe, but now we know he's been captured and tortured, it looks like, and they're taking information from him. I also like the implication from his narration that he might have either sent Validus or somehow aided in him getting out of the prison and into the timeline to warn the others. All the Absolute Universe build-up so far has been really great. I like that it's just very small things like this. It's not some grand, big connection. It's just very small things straight up, and I can't wait to see where they all lead to in the coming year. Somewhat of Superman Special Issue 1 was a fantastic catch-up on where we're at in Superman and the Superman family stories of 2025. laying out a rather personal story about Clark reminiscing about his summers spent in Smallville alongside Lana Lang and what they taught him about life, present, the past, and the future. Waid, Slott, and Williamson really brought their A games and gave us a hearty serving of what each of their respective Superman books will be in the coming months. The highlight for me being Dan Slott's use of the Superman family and having them all work together as a team. I can't wait to see more of that in his book later on this year. The finale also teasing more Absolute Universe crossovers, and the fate of Booster Gold was just cherry on top of a fun, colourful, and exciting special. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.